God bless you all, and God bless America.
You're listening to the Necromaniacs podcast. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Necromaniacs horror podcast. It's Necro Thursday. I'm here with Jeff. Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm having an interesting day. How about you?
I'm doing good, man. It's things are going okay.
Yeah. Things are going all right for you. That's good to hear.
And I don't know. So we're recording on the weekend, so pretty chill.
Yeah. Having a nice this Sunday, and I had a little nice Sunday planned out, but we'll see how the rest of the day pans out.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit sick, listeners. Not COVID, but some sort of a weird bug going around. But I'm soldiering through it to bring you a new episode of this podcast.
Let's run down all of our buddies out there in podcast land. So to kick the week off, as you all know, we're part of a cabal of high-level media content creators known as the horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. So starting things off on Mondays, we have every other Monday, that is, we have Brandon Legion bringing you Horror Wolf 666. Every Tuesday, Jackie Smith brings you Into the Necrosphere, the greatest metal podcast in the land. It's literally the only one that I listen to on a regular basis. Wednesday is Everything Went Black, which is my personal podcast, and it's a variety of different things. You're just gonna have to check it out and you decide yourself if you want to listen or not. Of course, Thursday is Necro Thursday, which is the Necromaniacs horror podcast with me and Jeff and Mike Scandato. Friday brings us Mike's brother, John Draper's podcast, known as Spitball Media, which is a sort of irreverent rundown of cultural topics, movies, things like that. Saturday is a day off, but beware. Carl Hikara brings us Soul Knocks on Sunday. It's a double shot for him. He puts episodes out on Thursdays and Sundays, so if you need extra darkness in your week, check out Soul Knocks. And Carl and I are full steam ahead with Darkness Weaves, our retrospective of the relatively obscure work of Carl Edward Wagner, weird fiction author, heroic fantasy, like that sort of thing, who was taken from us at a very young age, and he has a very excellent but rather limited catalog of material out there to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And then also out there and lurking in the shadows is the Craig Satari of the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse. Of course, I'm referring to Iblis Manifestations, brought to you by Cheyenne of the great band Trivax. And that's it. We got you covered every day except for Saturday.
Yeah, Mike, it was funny. I texted you earlier this week about someone you should have on your podcast, and you were like, "Yeah, he was on like a year ago."
Yeah, John Padgett. Yeah, John Padgett rules. Actually, we're gonna close the circle with the Cadabra Records guys, because I consider John to be part of that crew since he narrates all of the Thomas Ligotti work that they do. But yeah, they're gonna come up again later this episode, actually. And so that's the whole crew. And have you checked anything out interesting, Jeff?
I have. I think we talked about it a little bit last time we spoke. I've been on kind of a Quentin Tarantino kick, and I finally rewatched Death Proof, his half of the Grindhouse film from, I think, 2006 or 2007. I'm sure you've seen it, right?
Oh yeah, I saw it in the theater, actually.
Yeah, me too. You saw the whole Grindhouse experience.
Yep, I did.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I have some mixed feelings about Death Proof, though. I was actually gonna even pitch maybe we should talk about this one someday, as it's sort of an interesting movie for Tarantino.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm definitely down. I actually, it's interesting because I watched both of those films back to back when they came out in the theater, and that his is less of a grindhouse film than more of just a Quentin Tarantino film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
really like an exploitation film. It's more just like a film he would make.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it is my least favorite Tarantino movie of the nine he's made, but I still don't think it's bad. It's still better than a lot of other movies, but not quite didn't quite hit the mark of what it was going for, and not quite like a blown Quentin Tarantino movie. You know what I mean? Like it feels somewhere in between. Uh on that note, there's a movie that came out this year that feels like a throwback to a time in like 1995, 1996, where every movie was trying to be a Quentin Tarantino movie. And it's a movie I had no idea existed. A friend recommended it to me. It's called Last Stop in Yuma County. Have you heard of that?
Yes. Wait, no. I'm thinking of 310 to Huma, which is
Yeah.
it was an old Western that got remade. But this movie I have not seen, no, and I've never heard of it.
Yes, I believe it's a first-time director. It stars Jim Cummings, who is a writer-director himself. People might recognize him from he was in the flashback scenes in Halloween Kills. He was the police officer. He directed and starred in a movie called The Wolf of Snow Hollow,
Yeah, that
Snow
movie
Creek.
sucked. I saw that movie. I hated that
I,
movie.
I liked that movie a lot.
Yeah.
He wrote, directed, and starred in a movie called The Beta Test, and he is the star of this movie. And takes place in a middle of nowhere town in Arizona in a diner with no air conditioning. And it immediately took me back to the mid 90s when I was like, oh man, this is like one of those post Pulp Fiction movies, like trying to be like a Tarantino type flick. Uh, but I liked it. I recommend it. And I think people who listen to this podcast are gonna like this like little crime thriller, let's say. That's also very funny, but I wouldn't call it a comedy.
Yeah, that sounds cool,
Uh,
man. I love that kind of thing. Have you been to Yuma? I've actually been to Yuma.
I have not been to Houston. Well, let me think about that. I may have been through there, but I honestly don't know. I don't think so.
I made a point of stopping there like that. We never played. That place is too small to have like shows. I
Yeah,
mean, at
yeah.
least, maybe there's some kid who does shows in his basement or something like that. But like, there was no viable venues there. But like, I remember because of 310 to Yuma, the Western, a couple times going through that part of the country, I was like, oh, let's stop here, and get lunch or something like that. So I remember stopping in Yuma, and I think that's on Route 10, maybe, right? It goes
Yeah.
across the country, across the Southwest, and but it's like any other place, man. It's got, the Starbucks, the what's that, the Panda Express or whatever, like that.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. It's not like any kind of place. It's just like every other spot along that run across the
Right.
Southwest.
Yeah, like everything else is nowadays. But you wouldn't know it from watching this movie. You feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. Also sounds like you guys had fun on tour. Stopping places, doing things. What's that like? I have no
Well,
idea.
we just literally just to get gas and coffee and maybe like
Yeah.
a lunch or something like that. You know what I mean?
I uh I also picked up the new Stephen King book. I was going to ask
Oh,
you if
fuck.
you had gotten that yet.
I haven't. No, dude, that guy, I can't keep up with what his output, to be honest.
It's hard to keep up with. This is called You Like It Darker. It's a short story collection. I
Yeah.
think Stephen King has always excelled when it comes to short stories. And I mean, for the last 20, 30 years of really his novels have kind of fallen flat for me. Maybe that's me. Maybe I've changed. But I feel like I haven't liked a novel of his in a very long time. But I do enjoy his short stories. And I've only read a couple stories in this one. I'm enjoying it. So far, there hasn't been like a real banger of a story, but none of them are bad. And I will be discussing this book on one of our fellow Horsemen's podcast.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, look out for that.
Yeah, I was aware of that it came out, and I haven't picked it up yet. But yeah, dude, Revival, which is one of his novels that's come out in the last like 10 years or so, is a really good one to check out.
That's what I heard. I have it. I have not read it.
Gotta read it, dude.
I bought it at an airport. I had a flight. I was like, oh, I'm gonna grab something to read. Sure, I know Stephen King. And I just slept the entire flight. So maybe when I'm done with this one, I'll dig into that one.
It's a heavy ass read, man. It's a bleak existential like journey, man. It's very Lovecraftian. It's very much a cosmic horror kind of thing. And it's
Yeah.
like probably one of my favorite books, actually, aside from those first, several books he put out back, in the beginning of his career.
Yeah, that's not something you'd expect from King. At the bleak. I
No.
mean, obviously, he's been doing the Lovecraft thing here and there for a while, but he's not known for his ultra downbeat, bleak kind of stuff.
Well,
I don't think.
this is definitely part of that. You'll see what I'm saying once you get to it.
I'll get to it. What about you, man? What have you been checking out?
Well, firstly, Tina and I went to go see the 30th anniversary Crow presentation at a movie theater down in Hazlet, New Jersey. And
Oh,
it was the
cool.
30th anniversary of that movie came out, so we saw it in the theater, and big time fun, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
We had a great night. It was like really cool to see that movie. I love The Crow. I think it holds up. I love the comic
Yeah.
book. The James O'Barr comic book is like one of my favorites. And maybe the comic more for nostalgia purposes, because I was like a young man when I read that.
Hmm.
And but still, actually, it's still great. I reread it a couple of years ago in graphic novel form, and yeah, awesome. So that was great. Um, the next night we went to go see In a Violent Nature at another
Oh,
theater. Yeah, at another one of these like small like you know it's like a small chain kind of like draft house style place like way out west in western New Jersey.
yeah.
And so we made a night out of it. It was cool,
How was
uh
it? I'm very curious about this.
dude, everyone's going off about how great this is. It fell short with me, man.
Oh man, really?
I mean, we should definitely do an episode on it. I want to see what either you or Mike think about it, and I think we owe it to the fans to like, to like talk about this film. I'm sure everyone's gonna have their own opinion about it. And for me personally, uh there's things I liked about it, things that I didn't like about it, and that's just how it is. You know what I mean? It's like a middling kind of film. It's not a
Hmm.
great movie, and it's not a terrible one either.
Okay, maybe we could do a three-way episode. That might be. We haven't done one of those in a while.
Yeah, we should. I think so. I think that'd be cool to get all three because it's going to be coming up on Shutter soon. This is just Shutter original,
Yeah.
and I imagine like in another month or two it'll be up on Shutter so we can all watch it for free again. And then
Yeah.
yeah. So what are you gonna say?
Oh no, no, nothing. I just said that the movie had me when I saw a description of it. It said, if you ever wondered if what it would be like if Terrence Malick directed a slasher movie, wonder no more. I was
That's
like, okay,
interesting. I could see
you got
that.
me.
Yeah, I could see
Yeah.
that. But like as far as like, I mean, it's an interesting movie to discuss. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
like whether or not I enjoyed it, it's like a Sun record. It's like interesting, but I don't know if I enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Totally get you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Then also last night we watched another Shutter original, The Arcadian.
Hmm.
Are you familiar with that one?
No, I am not.
I think Brandon Legion was the one who hit me to this movie, and it's features Mr. Nicolas Cage.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I saw a trailer for that.
Yeah, very good, very good, very. I enjoyed it. I think it's definitely something to check out. We rented it because it's not streaming on Shutter just yet, but it's a Shutter original, so it's it'll show up eventually on their channel.
Yeah. I think I saw the trailer and went and checked out the Rotten Tomato score, and it looks like people are digging this one.
I thought it was really cool, man. Very bleak ending, for the well, kind of up. It's it's like a post-apocalyptic sort of vibe to it. And so
Right.
yeah, there's like a certain bleakness to it, but there is a bit of an upbeat ending. So, but something to
Nick,
check out, and I
yeah.
think we should definitely cover it at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Nicholas Cage has been welcome back to acting. It seems he's picking better roles these days. I think his tax problems are behind him, and he seems to be popping up in far more interesting films than say like 10 years ago when you would
Yeah.
see it in like, these red box exclusive kind of things.
Yeah, and also I think he had something to do with the production. Like he was either a producer on this or he had something to do with the behind the scenes on this film.
Ah, okay. Well, he's a big genre guy, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much all I checked out, as far as like good stuff, I mean, definitely I mean, definitely go see in a violent nature. Like I'm not trying to discourage people from it, but because it is it's an independent film. It's a unique take on the whole thing. It's debatable how successful it was creatively. That's the only thing I have to say about it.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm even more interested in seeing it now.
Yeah. So let's do a couple calls before we get into
Yeah.
this week's feature. So of course, if you guys want to reach us, you can hit us on the Necro phone, and that's 908-913-0782, 908-913-0782. And first up, we have Dave Razor Eater Metal Barbardi. Also, Zezbeth. That's like his newest band. So here's Dave. Good to hear from him.
Hey, Necromaniacs. It's Dave Berardi calling back. Just wanted to update on a couple of things that I had been checking out. Different voicemail I left. I said I was checking out Tenebrae. Absolutely loved it. Loved the twists at the end. And I say twists. Hopefully I'm not spoiling it for anybody that hasn't seen it. But if you haven't seen it yet, you definitely need to watch it. It's one of the best things that I've seen in a while. And I'm regretting not watching that one sooner. Keeping up with the podcast, though, I've been delving into the Fulci stuff that you guys have covered, and also some of the stuff that I haven't seen of his in a while. And yeah, it's pretty badass. I gotta say, Zombie is still one of the strongest and best things that I've seen in the horror genre in a long time. And what else? I checked out The Psychic for the first time. Loved that one. And I've got a bunch of other stuff on my watch list that I'm going to either be rewatching or watching for the first time. And I'm really looking forward to that. I've been kind of obsessing over Italian horror, giallo, all that kind of stuff. So it's good that I get to kind of follow along with you guys as you cover that stuff. So here's a question. What are your favorite scores from some of these Italian horror movies? I know Claudio Simonetti and Goblin are pretty prominent. Obviously Fabio Frizzi and guys like that. I definitely have to say that Suspiria is probably my favorite of all time. I also love Demons. I love the Zombie score as well. But yeah, what are some of your guys' favorite? Always been curious. And I don't know, maybe in the future you guys can do like a whole episode on like scores for different films if you haven't already. And yeah, loving the content, especially love the Fulci stuff. Hope you guys continue down the Italian plane, I guess you could say, and churn out some more awesome stuff. Argento, Bava, all that kind of cool stuff. So keeping it up. Love the content. You guys rule. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Great hearing from you, Dave. I'm glad to hear that you're calling regularly. That's kind of cool. I'm always down for that. And it's also good to hear that you're on this Italian exploration, which is cool. That's a big Italian horror, rates real highly over here. And man, that's a great question about which some favorite film scores, because I feel
Yeah.
like in Italian horror and giallo films, the score is like such a huge part of the movie itself. So I got a couple that I really dig, and I don't have like a list or anything, but these are like just off the top of my head, like Goblins, the Profondo Rosso, the Deep Red, that's a
Great
good
one.
one. Pino Donaggio, La Setta, which is we just covered that actually, the Michele Suave's The Sect. The score is actually better than the film, in my opinion. I mean, I mean, I don't. The movie was. You guys listen to the episode, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, the great Ennio Morricone has a pretty prolific output of film scores, but for me, it's Bird with the Crystal Plumage is one that comes to mind, and the Stendhal Syndrome. They're definitely Morricone's one of his greater works, in my opinion.
Yeah, all great. I hate to give such a generic response, but I mean, Suspiria. I
Yeah.
mean, that is such a iconic classic score for a reason, and it's probably one of my favorites across any genre.
And this is going to come off as like kind of hipsterish, but even the new Suspiria score I think is pretty good.
By Tom York, yeah, it
Yeah,
was good.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It pains me to say that, but I actually liked it though.
I do. Well, I'm actually a big Radiohead fan, and some people have mixed feelings about that band, but I'm a big fan. That was one of the things I was really looking forward to about that movie, and it ended up being one of the few things I liked about the Suspiria remake. I was not a fan of that movie at all.
Next up, we got Chris.
Hey, what's up, Necromaniacs? This is Chris. I just wanted to leave a call. Really appreciate the Don't Torture a Duckling episode that just came out on Necromaniacs that you guys just did. Really cool. Really getting into the Giallo stuff. The Horseman podcast and the Legion out there have really helped me out over the past few years with going on deployments and traveling back and forth across the country. So it's cool to have like consistent voices out there with a lot of awesome recommendations for movies and music. So yeah, I appreciate your professionalism and being true gentlemen and really helping us all out with your awesome content. I remember I did really one-off back in 2014. Got to meet Mike at the Tomb Show at the Casbah. You guys were playing with Pelican and Mustard Gas and Roses. It was an amazing show, and thanks for taking the time. And then also just wanted to say I listened to the Inhuman record on streaming. Awesome, very cool. It was really going to help out with the workouts and getting through the day for that for sure. Yeah, a few recommendations. Really getting into South American horror cinema, and I checked out the El Conde, the Count, which is an awesome vampire movie, Chilean dictator. So kind of like a historic horror. It's all in black and white. 2023. Totally recommend that. Awesome cinematography, very cool scenes. And then another movie called The Last Matinee from 2020. I believe this takes place in Montevideo, Uruguay. Really cool. There's some giallo, black glove, knives, stabbing, very cool, kind of gore cinematography. Looks like a good story. I haven't checked it out yet, but it's really kind of opened my eyes to a whole genre that's happening down there in the Southern Cone for Latin America, which I'm going to check out, and I think you guys would really appreciate that too. So, yeah, thanks again, guys, everybody, the Horsemen, the impact that you're having for us throughout the week and in our lives for all this stuff we care about a lot. All right, best to you guys. Be safe out there. Thanks again.
Thanks, and glad to hear that we can make a difference, Chris. I really appreciate that, man. And thanks for your service too. That's I'm glad to hear you're doing okay. And yeah, dude, 2014 at the Casbah, man. That's a while. That's like 10 years ago, man.
Yeah, dude. Casbah in San Diego, right?
Yeah, San Diego. Yeah, and
Yeah,
San Diego is like a lot of military dudes. San Diego's a big military town, so I remember running into a lot of people in the military whenever we ran through San Diego.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Really always enjoyed playing the Casbah. It's one of those places you pull up to and you see empty. You're like, how's anyone gonna fit in here? How are we gonna fit on that stage? But it always works, and it was always awesome. Always loved playing that place, man. It's just some rooms have a vibe and that just work, and that's one of those places.
We played there together actually at the Casbah at least once.
Yes, we did on our last tour, right? It
Yep.
was us, Toombs, and Jacob.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, we that was the first day of that tour was in San Diego at the
Mm,
Casbah. And
I think we started so many tours at the Casbah, at
for you guys
least
it
two or
made
three.
sense. Being based in LA, it makes sense to start there, you know what I mean? Just run up the coast from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't played very many places in San Diego other than the Casbah. There was one other place we played with Palms, Belly Up Tavern, slightly bigger, but not much. But I don't know. Like I was like, yeah, I kind of like the Casbah more.
Yeah, dude. And so as far as like South American stuff, I've seen The Last Matinee. Actually, that's a really sick movie and it's on Shudder. Um, Definitely check that out. It's enjoyable. It reminds me a little bit of Demons, and Demons
Mm.
2, so definitely a cool movie. I haven't seen El Conde though. That's something. I'm not that familiar with the South American scene necessarily, and maybe I should start digging deeper into some of those movies.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I think the director of Terrified has and God, the movie that came out last year that everyone loved, Where Evil Lurks, When Evil Lurks.
Yeah.
He's got a segment in some sort of South American horror or something. Like there's like 5 stories. And it's on Shudder, and I haven't watched it yet, and I have no excuse. Since I am not feeling well today, as soon as we're done recording, I'm gonna sit on the couch and lay down and probably watch something, and I'm maybe that'll be it.
So thanks a lot, Chris, and great
Thank
hearing
you,
from you.
Chris. Yeah.
Next up, we got Mike from PA returning.
Yeah, good morning, Necro Hoods. It's Mike from Telford, your unreliable caller. I'm on my way to work. It's Wednesday morning. Necro Thursday tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. It's a short week, so getting into the swing of bullshit here. I haven't had my cell phone service for a couple of weeks. I switched providers, and that was a fucking shit show, so I haven't called in because I've had a few things to tell you. So it's kind of old news at this point, but me and my lady went to Retro City Studios down here near Philly a couple weekends ago and saw Lawrence Harvey and Chris Pisone and Slasher Film Festival Strategy do a live recording of Story of the Eye. And that was an amazing fucking experience. Mike, I know you've been there because mention the podcast to the folks there and everybody lit up. And so I know you know how small that spot is and how cool that fucking atmosphere was. That was a 2-day deal, so that was really cool. Everybody there was really fucking chill and nice and just a little bit, they made us feel welcome. We're not the most sociable people right off the bat, just meeting folks. We tend to stay quiet and in the shadows or whatever, but Chris and his wife Julia especially were really, really awesome. And it was a great experience. And I wouldn't have known about Cadabra if it wasn't for you. So I really appreciate the heads up. I've been following them since you had Chris on the show and building up the collection slowly. And that was a really, really cool experience. So looking forward to tomorrow. Got a bunch of shit to watch. I'll be calling with some recommendations. And hope you guys are doing good. Later.
Dude, that's so awesome that you went to Retro City and you met Chris and Julia and the Cadabra Records guys. See, I told you it was going to come up again.
Yeah, look at that.
We went to the first one they did. They have live events now where, that's nothing new, but they record these live events. Like there's a small group of people that they go to, you get a ticket and you go to Retro City Studios outside of Philly, and they'll have different readers and they'll have, the accompaniment with the score, and they'll record it for a live album. So we went to the first one they did, and I'm really happy to see that Mike went down there and checked it out, and he got to meet everyone. And the Cadabra Records guys, the whole crew are awesome people. you know, Jonathan, Chris, Julia, you know, Chris's wife, Julia, and then all the narrators and everyone else involved, that they're all awesome, totally professional, really cool people. And yeah, Chris is coming back onto EWB, man. So he's got a lot of big killer news for new releases coming up at Cadabra Records. So he's coming on the show and
Awesome.
gonna talk about it all. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I've been listening to John Paget on a few different podcasts over the last few weeks. Very interesting stuff.
At some point I'll have Paget back on too. You know, I think
Yeah,
that
I really enjoyed your episode, by the way.
yeah, Paget rules. He's got a great voice. He's like a scholar. He's actually going to be in control of all Legati's estate when you know, at that point. And
Yes.
he's in charge of keeping his all of his material in print, which is great because, you know, unlike Carl Edward Wagner, you can't find any of his stuff anywhere, you know. And now the guys at Cheer Up Terror Press and John Paget and the Cadabra Records people are, everything is available now by Thomas Legati.
Which is very important, I think. I think he's gonna go down as one of the greats up there with Poe and Lovecraft. I truly believe that.
So that's it for calls this week. Thanks everyone for calling in. And yeah, we love it, man. It's great. That brings us to this week's feature film. Of course, we're doing Civil War. Civil War, which just came out. It's still in the theaters, I think. No, it's not. Is it? No.
I didn't think it just started streaming. It might be playing at a theater here and there, you know, like some second run theaters or something.
Yeah.
It's still out there. It's out there to see at home too.
Released March 14th, 2024, written and directed by Alex Garland. And I know that you're a big fan of his. I also
yes,
appreciate his work too.
Mm.
Yeah. Killer, very, very excellent cast. We've got Kirsten Dunst as Lee Smith, a photojournalist. Wagner Mora as Joel. He doesn't get a last name in this, I guess. He's also a journalist. We have Kaylee Spaney as Jesse Cullen, who's up and coming photojournalist, photographer type chick, you know.
Yeah.
Stephen McKinley Henderson as Sammy. Nick Offerman as the President of the United States. Jesse Plemons as an uncredited role.
Yeah, that's right.
And I have to mention this. Carl Glussman is in it. He's a spotter. He's the spotter for the sniper. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what's
All
interesting about Carl Glussman is that he was in Gaspar Noé's movie Love. And
oh shit, that's
he's the
where I
guy.
knew him
Yeah,
from.
in the opening scene, he's the guy getting jerked off by that lady.
Yeah, he's in
Yeah.
Devs as well.
Yeah.
Another Alex Garland production, which also had Nick Offerman.
And he has a great finish in that opening scene of of Love. So, you know, that's some European shit, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Absolutely. That's one of the most European movies you're ever going to see. Wasn't such a big fan of that, but that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Gaspar knows, like, you know, definitely into, like, you know, the kind of like transgressive stuff. You know what I mean? But it's more of it's a love story, which I thought was interesting for him to do. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I did not even catch that was him. Good catch, man. Fucking hell, yeah. And I'm gonna look at that scene differently now. So yeah, you mentioned Alex Garland. I feel like he started off as like a darling of the people and the critics, and I feel over his last few films, that's perception of him has changed a little bit. Men had a very mixed to negative response. I really liked it. But a lot of people thought that was not a film for him to make. You know, I read a lot of comments like "stay in your lane," things like that. But you know, fuck that.
Yeah.
I you know, like if he's an artist, he has a right to make a film about whatever he wants. I thought Men was not out of the four. It's my least favorite that he's made, but I still thought it was a very good, interesting folk horror movie. And this movie, I mean, I feel like, man, people's knives were sharpened for this movie before they saw a frame of it.
Exactly, you know, and I mean, I thought Men was good too. I enjoy all
Yeah,
his films. I think I'm a fan of his as well, you know.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I like that he does these sort of controversial things in his movies. Like, you know, who the fuck is anyone to tell anyone what to do when it comes to being creative? You know what I mean? And it's like, well, only women can make statements about toxic masculinity. I think if anyone has an insight into being a toxic male as a man, you know?
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. You can make whatever kind of film you want. People don't have to like it, but that's how it is. And I think a lot of people said, why make this in such a divided time in a election year that is going to be already shaping up to be very chaotic and scary? And I say there's no better time
No, totally.
than
I agree. You know, and the just I want to just go back to 2016 when Trump was elected. American Horror Story did that season about MAGA and like Trump being elected, and you know, definitely not as like successful in their you know, as Alex Garland is in this film, you know, but still it's not like a new thing to be, you know, controversial like this.
right. And that was a more campy take. I actually really like that season of that show that I really don't like, but I enjoyed that season.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I pretty much find something to like about every season of American Horror Story, except for the last one. The last one was terrible.
yes,
I didn't even
you've
finish
mentioned
it.
that.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, um, well, American Horror Story has its fans, and people seem to enjoy that season, whereas this movie is criticized for not going hard enough, being too apolitical, not picking a side, being cowardly. These are all of things I've seen about this movie. I disagree with all of that.
Yeah.
By the way, I think this is a very political film, but I don't think it panders to any side politically. I think the matter of fact tone of this movie really gives it its strength. You know, you don't really get to know these characters. Well, you do, but you don't know much about them. Like you said, you know, one guy doesn't even have a last name.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Well, the point of the film, in my opinion, wasn't necessarily to like be on any side. It was just to portray the horror of what something like this can, you know, lead to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I
You
think
know,
it's more of a comment on our society than it is about like choosing a side or being like, you know, okay, this is what the filmmaker thinks, you know?
and also, but the thing is, he does choose a side. You know, I mean, he does pick a winner and a loser in this conflict, and he does very clearly indicate who the quote unquote president of the United States is by some of the things that he's proposed or done in his 3 terms of being president. So it's not like he sits the fence, like, you know, and oh yeah, this is like, you know, generic guy A, you know, like he's definitely a narrative. There's like a subplot going on here that's revealing what his politics are, you know, and which is good because you should have a point of view. But that's not the point of the film. The point of the film is not to say this guy's good, this guy's bad. It's just no one wins in a scenario like this.
Right, exactly, exactly. I couldn't agree more. And yeah, we talked about this a little bit beforehand about the president. He's in the movie for what, maybe 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Not a big part, but you said there's some thinly veiled digs well, maybe not so thinly veiled, but there are some Trump-isms going on with this character.
And there's also just like subtle like indications of how completely in a shambles the United States is too. Like, you know, broad strokes and then also subtle things, which we'll get to, you know. So I guess let's do a quick like rundown of what the setting is. You know, so there's a
Yeah,
president of the United States has is in a unconstitutional 3 term elect he's in his 3rd term. So anyone who's familiar with the Constitution knows that a president is only supposed to serve 2 terms. So, you know, obviously, right,
right.
there's been some sort of fascist uh, disintegration of the fabric of our government. So, so yeah, there's that part of it, and then there's a secessionist movement that consists of Texas and California, two odd bedfellows, in my opinion.
Very odd, but also I feel that was very intentional.
Yeah. And then Florida figures in somehow too, right? Florida's not necessarily part of that alliance, but they're like some kind of like, they figure into this thing somehow.
They do. That's again, the movie doesn't really spell out 100% what's happening, who's with who's against who. It just makes this sort of air of chaos and nowhere is safe.
Now, taking it even further, you don't even know where the journalists land on their politics either.
Right, exactly. And that itself, I feel, is a statement on the current state of things. They kind of harken back to a day of like pure hard journalism that we don't really have today. I don't know if you feel the same way, but
no, I mean, everything is so completely biased and partisan these days. But you're right. It's like the journalists just are after the story. This is just another moment in history that they're trying to document. That's interesting to me because nowadays, like everyone has a take on everything. You got Fox News, you got MSNBC, you got like no one's sitting the fence. Everyone has an agenda with everything.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, you can't read any article about anything political without knowing immediately what the writer thinks or even who they're writing the article for. You already know what the way the article is going to go. We're seeing a lot of that over the last, since Trump became president, since he's running again. As we're recording this, Trump was just, found guilty on 34 charges. And the term civil war is being thrown around a lot on social media. I used to think the idea of a civil war in America was silly and ridiculous, and I'm at the point now where I'm not sure if that really is so far-fetched. I'm getting there. Like thinking, God, that could happen.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I agree, but I don't know, dude. That's a big step. And like a lot of people, similar to the way people have like inflated ideas about how they would do in a fist fight, like
Yeah.
everyone thinks like, oh yeah, man, it's gonna be like, we're throwing kicks at each other and like careening through the air. Everyone has like an inflated idea how they're gonna fare in an actual fist fight until they get into one, and then it's like in 11 seconds the whole thing is over. You know what I mean?
Just having this conversation last night with our mutual friend Randy Larson about gun ownership, guns, and people saying, if everyone was armed, it would have gone down differently. Like that's what you think,
Yeah.
but that's not necessarily reality. You've never, you fired at gun ranges at targets that look like Nancy Pelosi or something or Fauci, but you've never fired at an actual person.
That's exactly the thing. It's like, like I've fired, weapons at ranges before, but I don't know if I could pull a trigger on somebody. Just like, like there's that moment when you're getting a fist fight with somebody where do you throw the first punch? Do you wait for like it's like to strike someone else is like such a step, such a movement, like such a statement. Yeah. And it's not something that, unless you're really comfortable doing that kind of thing, like not everyone's comfortable with that.
Right. Yeah.
The same thing with firing weapons.
Yeah. You may want a civil war, but you also got a car payment to make and a job to go to and all this stuff. So no, I'm with you there. I'm just starting to see it like how a possible route getting there could take shape. Maybe we're seeing it now. I don't know.
But even like when you go we're going on a little bit of a tangent right now, but also the like mass shooters, like school shooters, like back in the 90s, like and even more recently, that people like will go in and shoot up schools, but they oftentimes start losing heart like in the middle of doing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, you're gonna have to, number one, you're gonna have to actually be someone who has been in combat to do this kind of thing. Probably the people that are making like all these statements are probably people who are like, aren't comfortable or familiar with conflict. You know what I mean?
This film does touch on that a little bit too in the gas station scene.
Does,
where
yeah.
yeah, which I thought was one of the more powerful scenes in the movie, where they stop for gas, and you find out like these militia types are holding two people prisoner, and one of them says, "I went to high school with that guy,"
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
man, yeah, that just put a chill down my body. It was it was a very good scene.
So, we have the government forces and then we have the Western forces. And then there's where you can see, like you were saying, there's like these small militia groups throughout the country that they run into as well. And the movie itself, the plot's very simple. It's like the group of journalists it's a road movie where they're traveling to Washington, D.C. from New York, and they have to take this roundabout way through Pennsylvania to get there, and through West Virginia, and wonderful states like that.
Yeah.
And the the whole point is that the war is coming to a head, and it looks like the government forces are losing, and they want to capture the moment as best as they can. Joel wants to actually interview the president of the United States, and have just capture the moment in history. So really, that's it. So they're on this like journey through the Northeast to get to Washington, D.C., and we get to understand the situation through the people that they meet along the way and the situations that they encounter.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of this ragtag group of people. You have Lee, played by Kirsten Dunst, who I couldn't believe Kirsten Dunst is only 41 years old. They did a very good job of making her, war weary, and just, like she doesn't need to rattle off her experiences, because they are all over her face, all over her expressions.
Yeah, she did a great job in this film.
She's very good in this. Yeah. And you have Joel, who's sort of an adrenaline junkie. I think he's still finding fun, not fun, maybe that's not the word, but I think he gets off on the danger that he's in.
Yeah.
Then you have the newbie, sort of like the young version of Lee, in Jesse, who is very, very green. She doesn't have the right protective gear for what she's doing. And she's just sort of always putting herself in unnecessary danger. She's very like inexperienced, and she sort of becomes a mentee of Lee, the old school, been there, done that kind of person. And one thing, I mean, I'm sure you noticed, Jessie shoots in black and white film that she develops herself, and
Yeah.
Lee shoots in color, in digital. And I thought that was a nice touch. It sure like shows like the difference between these two. Black and white developed. There's a little bit more distance in that, whereas Lee's stuff is very of the moment. And I think that's a nice metaphor for the difference between the characters. For Jessie, like I don't think this is as real yet. She doesn't have the scars yet. Thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, definitely. And also it's interesting too, because like that generation of people, like Jesse's like, I'm sorry, Jesse's like 24 or something like that, right? So
Yeah.
that generation seems to be embracing the more analog world in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Like you figured it would be flipped, like she would be the one to shoot digitally, but no. Also got to mention Sammy. Sammy seems like he could have been in season 5 of The Wire. One of the news guys. He's like an old school news guy who's just kind of coming along for the ride because he has to cover something in the Carolinas, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he says this is a suicide mission for them to try to interview the president, which you can be seen as another dig at Trump, where he says journalists are the enemy.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that kind of you're starting to get the sense that it's like a MAGA like scenario. And they also mention when Sammy's asking Joel about like what kind of questions is he going to ask him. This is where you get a very clear image of who the president is, because he's like, are you going to ask him about when he disbanded the FBI? Are you going to ask him about when he used like military force against the public? So yeah, these are all things, of course, that Trump did or is planning to do or wants to do, or and
Right.
so yeah, you get the feeling, the third term, the authoritarian aspect to it, the anti-press sentiments, you get a pretty clear idea about who this is. So, anyone, the movie doesn't sit the fence really. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. However,
Yeah.
you don't know who is who really in this whole thing. You don't know what I said it before, you don't know what the politics of the journalists are. You don't, and you run into people that are fighting the war and you don't have any idea what their position is either.
Yeah, that's very true. Almost every scene where they talk to soldiers, there's no insignia that I could tell, and you don't. Yeah, you're not quite sure where they lie.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
yeah,
again, adding to the air of chaos of this movie, and these and like every scene, I was like, well, who's shooting and who? Up until the end, obviously, the end is ending. The end battle is a little bit more clear. But up
yeah.
until that point, you don't know who's who. You don't know who these journalists can trust, if they're safe. You really feel like at any given moment, any of these four main characters could die. Even like the star of the movie. You're
Right.
like, oh God, they could kill Kirsten Dunst 20 minutes into this. Nothing would surprise me.
I mean, and that's kind of like, I mean, I know I've never been in the military, but I know like my good friend Morgan is a combat veteran, and
Mm,
he has told me that's kind of how it is. Anyone can get it anytime at any moment, and
yeah,
yeah, so it's like, that's how it is. And that the scene that really demonstrates that is when they run into Carl Glussman's sniper outfit there, when there's a guy, a sniper, and there's these two guys that are in uniform and they're fighting each other. They're trading shots. And I think she asked him like, who he is? And they're like, I don't know. There's a guy with a gun in there shooting at us.
right, yeah, exactly. I thought it was an interesting touch too. Like they had like their fingernails were painted and they had like kind of rainbow dyed hair.
Yeah,
And I was thinking, I was like, what does that mean? And the conclusion I came to is like, well, they've probably been out so long doing this. Maybe they just got bored one day.
probably. Yeah. Yeah. Because you do stupid shit like that when you're isolated and out in the middle of things like that. And
Yeah, I mean, how many bands went on tour and they come back with like, shaved heads, mohawks, or blue hair? It's just something to do, while you're,
tattoos. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I could be way, way off with that. There could be some really big, deeper meaning, but I don't think so.
But you don't know what side they're on, though. That's
No,
the
you don't.
thing. Or if they're even, and we'll find out later, if they're even affiliated with anybody. You know what I mean? I mean, you would assume they're affiliated with somebody because they're in uniform, and they have like real ordnance that they're using.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They have some. Yeah. Exactly. The movie also takes an interesting pit stop into when they go into a clothing store and it appears completely normal.
Yeah.
Um, and Joel is kind of taken aback by this, like, hey, do you know there's a pretty serious civil war going on all across the United States? And the person goes, yeah, I'm just trying to stay out of it. And she's reading her book and going about her business like nothing is happening. And again, I think the movie reserves a little bit. I think in a lesser movie, this person would be targeted to be mocked. But this movie again just presents it as very matter of fact. Like this is what's happening. There are people who don't want any part of this, and they're just pretending like nothing's happening. And that in itself becomes sort of a comment on again to today's society. I think there's people who have chosen a side, and there are people who are like, "Look, man, you guys are both crazy. I'm just I'm just gonna like sit back and watch you people destroy themselves."
Now you mentioned the gas station scene, and that
Mhm.
being like the first real interaction they have this journey. And one of the things that comes to mind that I want to bring up too is like, the consequences of having a conflict like this. It's like when they stop to get gas, okay?
Mhm.
They're bartering about how much money they're going to pay, right? and she's like 300, you know, is like $300. That gets you a sandwich here. That's like, we got ham and we got cheese. 300, you know, inflation is like, the currency is worthless at this point as a result of this conflict. And then she offers Canadian money, like that's like, which is hysterical to me because, like, you know, I just came back from tour and Canadians are not, you know, their money is like way less than ours.
Yeah. That struck me as funny too, and a really nice touch. Yeah, like he kind of perks up. 300 gets in Canadian gets you, you know, pretty much whatever you want.
Yeah, you can get, you know, whatever you want for 300 Canadian.
And again, that scene shows the disconnect between younger Jesse and what's happening, and not knowing the danger she's in, and Lee being sort of protecting her and like defusing the situation when Jesse goes down to that underpass to see the two prisoners that they have. I don't think she realizes that, like, hey, that could be her, but
Yeah.
Lee does, and
Oh, yeah.
Lee defuses the situation by making that scene all about the militia guy. Like, oh, let me get a picture of you with your prisoners, and he kind of likes that, plays into his ego.
Yep.
She
totally.
diffused that situation, like, and Jesse had no idea how much danger she was in. Everything she's experiencing, and she's experienced shit at this point, but it's still not 100% real for her yet.
Yeah, I mean, I since it was so early in the film, I didn't think anything was going to happen to her, but I was like, oh, this dude's like going to rape her or kill her or do something, you know, like terrible to her, you know.
I thought the opposite. I thought like she was dead. Almost every scene in this movie, I was like, they're dead. She's dead.
Yeah.
He's dead. You know, like I just felt something terrible was about to happen.
Yeah, and you probably feel the same way, man, but like I have always had a disdain for people like that. You know what I mean? Like going back, like right quick in my life, I realized that people like that are people you should avoid. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
and I know that's coming
Yeah.
off as like some East Coast like liberal bullshit, but I don't feel safe around people like that, honestly.
Yeah, people who are sort of like, yeah, that detached from suffering and and kind of think it's fun. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Those people are everywhere. It's not
Yeah.
like,
No, I'm talking mainly about the rednecks that with the guns.
oh yeah, those people are everywhere.
Yeah. Well, how many
Yeah.
times you pulled off in like the middle of nowhere to get gas and you just feel people like eyeballing you the whole time, you know?
Oh yeah, God, I remember we were doing a photo shoot in the Salton Sea, and people were in their dune buggies, like circling us, like you guys
Yeah.
definitely aren't from here. And I really felt like I was like, we might die out here and be buried in this fucking desert. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, man.
And I mean, specifically, I remember one time we were it was like middle of the night. It was like an overnight drive type scenario, and we were at Denny's. And actually, it was only me and like one other guy. The rest of the guys are asleep in the van. And like I was just sitting at Denny's and I was getting coffee and something to eat. And some dude, not in uniform, it turned out that this guy was an off-duty cop, just decided that he wanted to start fucking harassing us for no reason at all.
Yeah.
You know? And he's just, oh, where are you guys from? Where are you going? Like, what's your business there? I'm like, who the fuck are you, dude? You know, like, and he pulls out his fucking badge and he's like, I'm like, oh, okay. So you're gonna arrest me because I'm from out of town, you know?
Right. Yeah. God, you know, it enforces my theory that nothing good goes down in a Denny's after midnight.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I learned right quick that those people are trouble and you stay away from them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, especially the younger militia guy. Like, you know, you figured like before all this, like you can kind of get a sense of the guy he was. You know, like maybe he wanted to be a cop and couldn't make it as a cop, and he became like a security guard or something like that. And he's like,
becoming
you
a
know what I
cop
mean?
is like there's a pretty low bar for the people they take as cops. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. I know some cops. They say the same thing.
Yeah, it's like you're a fuck up in everything else in life, and then you become a cop. That's kind of, and that's unfortunate that these are the guys who allegedly are protecting us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. So that was a great scene. It kind of establishes like what's going on. Now the most terrifying scene that everyone's talking about features the uncredited Jesse Plemons.
Yes, what a fucking scene, man. I did a little bit of research about this. Jesse Plemons, like he wasn't originally going to be part of this movie. Someone else was cast in that role,
Really?
and he happens to be married to Kirsten Dunst, and said, "Well, I think my husband's available to shoot for a couple days," and that's how he got in the movie.
That rules. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
it's fucking rule. And Jesse Plemons is one of the great American actors. I
Oh,
think
totally,
he's
dude.
fucking phenomenal.
I'm a
Um,
huge fan of his. I love Jesse
me,
Plemons.
me too. Apparently, he would not interact with anyone that was in that scene before cameras started rolling.
Oh, so he
He
was
just
method acting.
yeah. He just like they were setting up the scene, like ready to shoot. Okay, he walked on set. He
Fuck,
didn't
dude.
want to like hang out with them or anything. He wanted to be fucking like completely believably terrifying, and he 100% is.
Now, once again, it's not clear what side these guys are on.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about that because like you're like there's no insignia. They're clearly doing something they're not supposed to be doing. But whose side are they on? Like, well, like I didn't know.
Well, the takeaway that I got from it is that they're just their own thing. They're not affiliated maybe with the Western forces or clearly not the government. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? That they're just like this random militia, which is probably accurate to the way something like this would happen, where like, all right, the Western forces are organized, they have an agenda, they are motivated by some sort of philosophy of how they want the country to go. The government forces are the government. But then there's probably, I would imagine in a scenario like this, a bunch of just splinter group, self-empowered, self-motivated militias that are just operating with their own agenda, like some sort of like Turner Diaries-esque,
Mm.
like sort of mission that they're on. And that's obviously these guys have like some kind of like Turner Diaries-esque racialist agenda with what they're
Oh,
doing.
yeah. I had a feeling like maybe they were loyalist to the president at
Well,
some
it
point.
would make sense that they were loyalists to a guy like Donald Trump, because they're completely against non-whites, and
Right.
have like this racist philosophy. Yeah, sure. But yeah, it's hard to say, man, right?
It is, but like he's like the scariest line in the movie when the journalist is like, "Hey, we're Americans," and goes, "Oh, well, what kind of Americans are you?" And they start saying where they're from. He's like, "Yo, Missouri, 100% American, 100%." So I was like, "Oh, maybe is Missouri part of the president's coalition?" I mean, I didn't know. And
And
it
that
almost doesn't matter. It makes it seem so much scarier that you don't know. Like any answer could be the wrong answer.
and it was very cop-like the way that he talked to her. It's like Missouri, the show me state. Well, why do they call it the
Yes.
show me state? Like I can imagine a cop saying, like, getting pulled over on the highway and some cop saying that to me. Oh yeah, New York.
Yeah.
Who's the mayor? Who's the mayor? Who's the mayor? Of New York City.
Totally. And they
Testing
do,
her to see where
yeah.
she's, if she actually is from Missouri.
Yeah. Yes. So fucking scary. And to make his character even more menacing and cop-like, because his demeanor is a little like it's not friendly, it's not mean, it is just very down the middle, matter of fact, much like getting pulled over by a cop. But there are little things they do to him to make him, for me, even scarier. He's wearing these sort of goofy red
Dude,
sunglasses.
I was going to comment on that. I wonder I wonder where those sunglasses came from. Do you think Plemons was like, you know what? I think these sunglasses will really work in this scene.
You know what I think, being the actor he is, I think, okay, he had a whole backstory where, like, someone in that pit of dead bodies that they're trying to cover up had red sunglasses and he
Yeah.
just took them from him. That's what I think.
Dude, maybe. Yeah.
And
Oh, interesting.
yeah, like, again, it's like the snipers with the rainbow hair. They're just fucking bored. Like, oh, this is kind of something different. Sure. That's what I think the red glasses are for him. Again, it could be way off. There could be some deeper symbolism there. He's like seeing everything through a red lens. He's seeing red, maybe, something like that. I don't know. But I think it's just scarier to me if he just like took shots in one. It's like, oh, I like those glasses, and just took them. His left hand is also stained with blood.
Yeah.
They make it a point. He's scratching his face. You see it. So while he may be acting calm in his demeanor, you know this guy has got blood, literal blood on his hands. And if that's not enough for you, there's literally a pile of dead bodies behind him that they're trying to pour lye on.
And that's the thing, man. It's like, and that's what makes me think that these guys are just like operating on their own because they're trying to like conceal everything and hide all this stuff. If they were like part of like the any one of the organized military forces, it wouldn't necessarily be this like clandestine operation that they were doing. And then, yeah,
yeah, they've gone rogue. Like they know they're losing, and they've just gone rogue. I think, and they're just fucking killing people. Man, and when he says, "Oh, this guy's a colleague of yours," very calmly, and then just calmly kills a guy, and the whole scene gets even more tense.
Well, let's mention too. This is important that there's two Asian people that he's singling out. The first guy he killed is a Asian guy.
Yes.
Yeah, and then he goes to Jesse, asks her about Missouri, and then he goes to Lee, and oh no, he asks Joel where he's from, and Joel's like, from Florida, and he's like, so Central America, which is like Central America. He's like, come on now,
Right? Yeah.
But Florida, that's the thing. He wasn't like un-American enough to like get shot right away.
Right away. Yeah. I believe they were all
doomed. They were all doomed.
Yeah.
But then he comes to the final guy. I think his name is Bohai or Tony, one of those guys.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, at this point, his partner's shot, dead. Everyone's upset. And the last guy is just like beside himself, right?
Yeah.
And he asks him where he's from, and he's he's saying all this stuff to him. It's like, what, you don't speak English, just answer the question in plain, clear English, and that guy actually he did speak English. Like he's earlier in the film, he probably was American or whatever, but he tells him he's from Hong Kong, and he's like, China, and just fucking kills him.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. Such a terrifying scene. And I do want to point out that death in this movie, again, is very matter of fact. There are no like speeches, last words, profound statements. You're in this movie, and then in a blink of an eye, you're dead. And that's it.
Yeah.
And it makes it so much fucking scarier to me.
Exactly. Now, I mean, I'm like, how the hell are these guys going to get out of this situation? You know what I mean? This dude is obviously had already decided that they were going to be killed,
Yes. Yeah.
And, but then, out of nowhere, Sammy busts through in a car because Sammy stays behind because he's trying to warn them against going down there. He's like, I just see this as death. He comes in the car, busts him out, and they roll, but they're taking fire. And he gets hit.
Yeah.
So
he gets hit.
Yeah. And before they leave, they pan out into this mass grave, and you do see that everyone in that mass grave is a brown person. Basically, it's they're not white people that are in there.
Oh, see, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, they pan out, and you see all the dead bodies, and you notice that they're all people of color.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes, because Jesse falls into the mass grave.
Yep.
Again, Jesse's surrounded by death. And, Sammy is mortally wounded. Jesse throws up in the van or whatever that is, like the little SUV they have. It's starting to become more real to her. She's starting to really see the depths of danger. And I thought it was an interesting juxtaposition because right after that horrifying scene, you have probably visually the most beautiful scene in the movie where they're driving through like a burning forest, basically.
Yeah.
And the whole screen lights up orange with these like ambers flying everywhere. It's very weirdly pretty. But it's a nice moment.
It reminded me of like Apocalypse Now, like the very opening scene Apocalypse Now, where there's the helicopter attack and the they're napalming the Viet Cong and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it was almost Terrence Malick-esque, who directed, I think, the best movie about war ever made, The Thin Red Line. It's sort of finding the humanity in the midst of all this chaos and death. I thought that moment of the film was that moment. You know what I mean? Like the break from everything, and man, yeah, which leads us into, I guess, the final battle.
Yeah,
Like
so it turns out that government forces are in their final throes. They're losing the war. The Western Alliance or Western forces are in Washington, D.C., and at any moment now, everything's going to crumble,
Yeah.
And so they're in D.C. They're trying to, position themselves to, photograph the president and for Joel to get his interview with the president.
Quite an interview it is. Yeah.
So, we're in this like, pretty cool like battle scene, like gunfights. The one comment I have to say is that I was surprised at how bright the city was at that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the city is completely powered up at that point. There's lights everywhere, which I would think that the power would have been cut at some point.
Yeah.
On a municipal level, and everything would be dark. Except for maybe the emergency generators in some of the buildings that would keep the basic systems running. Like I imagine the White House probably has its own e-gen that would keep that place powered up,
Yeah.
But when they're advancing on the White House, like the entire city, it looks just like a city in the middle of the night,
Yeah. You know what? I think that was probably like a filming choice,
Yeah.
so you could probably see everything. Just from like, a pure filmmaking point of view, this is one of the best battle scenes I've seen in a long time. It's extremely well choreographed, chaotic, and scary. Really kind of puts you right there with the journalists who are just unarmed, just shooting. They're not shooting bullets, they're shooting photos. Really, really puts you there with them. And Lee is finally breaking down. You feel like after years and years and years and years of this, she starts to find it takes its emotional toll on her. And on the flip side of that, Jesse comes alive.
Yeah, this is when she steps into the role of being like an actual journalist now.
Yeah. Yeah, which was very interesting, which leads to, well, by the way, spoilers.
Yeah, we're gonna spoil the shit out of this. So yeah.
There's a scene in this ending in the White House that I really wanted to talk to you about, because I'm not sure how I felt about it after seeing it. Jessie is putting herself in danger. She's being reckless and irresponsible and jumping out to take photos, and Lee jumps out to save her life and dies, takes a bullet for her. And as she's dying, Jessie takes her photo. She gets up, I believe she looked down, and keeps going with her mission. Lee, this main character that we're with the whole movie, dies very unceremoniously. There's not even a moment of grievance for her from anyone. In a lesser movie, I think there'd be some final words of wisdom, something like that. But this movie just completely skips over that. And I think some people found their actions very cold and that Jessie is evil somehow. But I didn't take it that way. I took it as like she now knows what she's in. She now knows death is just going to be very common for her, and I'm sure she's very upset that her mentor died, but she's on a mission and nothing is going to stop her. That's what I took away from it.
Right, but also you got to remember too, they're in a firefight. So how are you going to stop the firefight to emote over the loss of somebody? You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. But like the movie just sort of like, they don't go back to her body. They don't stand over. There's nothing like sentimental. There's no sad music or anything. The movie's over like a few minutes later. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's
Um,
true actually. And even the final scene is pretty uncertain. There's no drama lead up to it. It's just, like,
yeah,
yeah, and we'll get to that too,
yeah, exactly.
So we're in like the bunker now, like the Adolf Hitler bunker of the White House.
Yeah, which is just hiding under a desk apparently for
Yeah.
the president. That was a little. I was like, wouldn't you be like heavily guarded in a bunker somewhere?
Well,
You wouldn't be.
I don't know. Who knows? I don't know what, maybe,
That's
I imagine,
yeah, maybe. Yeah,
but I
maybe.
mean, who knows, like in a scenario like that, how many people might have just deserted, and said, fuck this guy and left, or like his true loyalists were going down with the ship with him.
Yeah, like the press secretary who just fucking, tries
She
to
comes out,
negotiate his surrender.
she's like trying to make demands and stuff. It's like, oh, we demand. I thought it was interesting that Alaska was like a neutral state.
Yes. Yeah. I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a nice touch. Yeah. And they just, after going back and forth there for like, I don't know, 30 seconds, they're just like, bam, killer.
Yeah. And then basically they drag the president out on his back. And then Joel steps up to get he's like, I have a cut, I have some, I like to get some words with you first. The president's just like, tell them not to kill me.
And he says the line of them, yeah, that'll do. And bam, they kill him.
Yeah.
Wow. Again, unsentimental moment, but you feel his rage and anger. His good friend just died. And I feel he blames the president for all of this.
Yep.
And it's all in the way he delivers that line. Yeah, that'll do. It was basically like, fuck you. I loved that. I loved that moment a lot.
So in the final moments of the film, you kind of get a sense of Lee Joel's politics on this whole thing. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and
Absolutely.
then some of the things that are really funny though, too, is like after, when they're rolling the credits, there's all photographs of the soldiers taking pictures around the president's dead body, like taking selfies and stuff like that.
Which is a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Like,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Like it might have been like, like it made you think of, the Abu Ghraib photos that we all saw.
Yep.
Of like soldiers posing with these people, and that's what I thought of, when I saw that, like hunters posing with their trophy.
Yeah, definitely. So, what a movie, man!
Yeah, like I did not know what to expect when I went into this, and I liked this way more than I thought I was going to. I think this is one of the best movies of the year. When credits were rolling, it's pretty much all I thought about the rest of the day was the movie. It was so much more powerful and engrossing than I expected. This is a great movie.
Yeah, I agree. I watched this literally 24 hours. I think actually I was watching this as they were announcing that Trump was convicted of 34 counts, of all 34 counts, and all the aftermath of that was like definitely like in my radar when I was watching this movie.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an important film, man. I mean, dude, who knows a year from now what the fuck's going to be going on in this country? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. This I think people like I said, people on the right sort of had their knives sharpened for this movie. It's like they're going to be mocking us, making fun of us. It's going to be some big anti-Trump film. It's not that. People on the left seems to think that it didn't go hard enough. I was reading about this movie before I saw it. I was like, yeah, I don't really know what I'm going to think of this, but I thought it was great. I thought Alex Garland struck the absolute right tone. Like, it's a very political movie, but it is presented in such a matter-of-fact, unsentimental way, and I think that was really the right way to go.
100%. And So yeah, what would you give this as a score?
5.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's an important film. I think it was very well done, and it's the right movie at the right time, man. And I think I give it a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I was not expecting a 5 out of 5. Maybe a 3.5, 4. But yeah, this blew me away. One of the best movies of the year, and Alex Garland, man, just one of the best doing it right now. I know he's taken a break from directing. He's writing couple sequels to 28 Days Later right now.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see that actually.
Me too. I mean, Alex Garland and Danny Boyle working together again. They brought us Sunshine, which I think Sunshine is a very underrated sci-fi movie. It's one of my. Good. It was great. I loved it. Yeah. Look forward to anything they do together. Look forward to anything Alex Garland does. He's proven he can work in multiple different genres. And, this obviously is not an outright horror movie, but everything he does has that element of horror to it. Everything. Ex Machina, scary movie, Annihilation, and this is probably the scariest thing he's made.
Jesse Plemons with his red sunglasses was the scariest character in anything I've seen this year, honestly.
Absolutely. I would love to see, come Oscars next year, him get a nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He's in the movie for maybe 5 minutes, but man, he's the fucking most terrifying thing in this movie. And he fucking crushes it. He's so good in this.
Well, there you have it, guys. That's our take on Civil War. Hopefully not a harbinger of what's coming in the next year, but
hopefully.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely an interesting film, a thought-provoking film, and something that was masterfully done by Alex Garland, I think.
100%.
Yeah. We'll catch you guys next week. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
simplicity.